How many years did this last? Like, is this lifestyle that you were in? And
I gotta say, from like 22 to about 26.
what did something happen that brought about a change?
Well, yeah, I'm getting high, and now here I'm in the truck, and I could feel like something was wrong, and I remember like saying, "God, if you're real, I'm telling you right now, unless you do something, it's gonna get crazy." You know, like I felt it in my spirit, like just kind of those crossroads. But I remember looking up and just saying, man, there's gotta be more. Just selling these tanks, making money. And as I was just getting high and drinking, and I looked up and I was like, God, help me. If you're real, like just help me. And then there was somebody like sitting next to me. And he was like, man, why are you talking to him? Like, man, it's like, I know you. Like, man, we're gonna make a ton of money, man. It's all good. And I was like, yeah. And man, I could see the money. I could see the trucks. I could see the pool. I could see the house. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Man, I'm about money. And then I would just look up and something would just like grieve my heart. And then this person's like, he's talking to me. It's like, man, it's all good. Like, don't talk to him. There was this part, man, where I was just like, God, help me see. And it was when I said that word, help me see. And I looked at him, and he was the devil. Like, I looked at him, and I was like, you're the devil. And he's like, you knew I was the devil? I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't know you were the devil. He's like, you've always known. Who do you think you serve? You don't serve him. Look at everything you do, man. You serve me. I was like, nah, man, nah. He's like, don't talk to me like that. He's like, I'll destroy you. He's like, I'll kill your mom. He's like, I'll destroy her. And man, I thought, my mom. You know, my jefita, like, oh man, nah.
From the city of Chicago, a city most recently known for its crime and violence. On this podcast, we will be sharing stories of redemption from individuals raised in the tough streets of Chicago and from around the country. Some of them were gang members, drug dealers, incarcerated, victims and perpetrators of violence. Listen to my guests as they share their experiences, struggles, trauma, but also the strength, hope, faith, and perseverance these have developed in them to keep pushing and moving forward in life. Tune in to hear how their lives have gone from darkness to light and from wrong to strong. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wrong to Strong Chicago. I'm your host, my name is Omar Calvillo, and tonight I have my brother Rudy Soto. I met this brother back in 2014 when I first visited New Life Community Church. It was Garfield Ridge. They were meeting out in Kennedy High School. So when I went there, he was one of the first brothers that I met there. Rudy, man, basically the sound, tech, setting up cables, everything on stage. So they had a team of brothers, you know, that and sisters that were setting up, you know, for the church service there at Kennedy High School. So I met them there. I got plugged in, and man, it's been for me 10 years that I've been in New Life. But welcome to the podcast, Rudy.
Thank you for having me, man.
Oh no, for sure, man. You know, and back then, you know, like, when I connected with you, obviously Pastor Juan and everybody else that was there.
Yeah.
You know, that was the beginning of where I'm at now, you know, so you definitely played a part in that, you know.
We had the kids part of road crew.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that, but I'm sure that's part of the testimony there.
Amen.
Of launching, you guys launching from New Life Midway, you know, going to Kennedy High School, and doing the Lord's work. And man, there's been a lot of fruit that came out of that.
Yeah.
You know, so we could definitely get into that in a little bit, man.
Yeah,
but
definitely, man, definitely.
But yeah, no, welcome, and man, usually we start at the beginning. So can you tell us, you know, what part of the city? I believe you grew up in Chicago your whole life.
Born and raised
in Chicago. There you go.
Pilsen.
There you go. All right.
Street, man.
All right. Yeah. You want to tell us, because there's some people that listen to this podcast maybe they didn't grow up in Chicago. You know, could you describe Pilsen? You know, like for somebody who's never been there, you know, especially in those early years for you?
Yeah. Well, originally I grew up in 26th Street.
Okay.
That's
How many years did you stay out there? And
I think I was in 26th Street probably about 5-6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of out there?
Oh yeah. You know, we used to live actually on I want to say 21st and Albany.
Okay.
So there was a big old folks home there and a retirement facility, and you know we used to run around and you know. But my parents they always had businesses. They were entrepreneurs, and so they were selling the flea market, and then they worked their other job. So they always had us working. You know, whether it was like packing bags of groceries or like tomatoes, pinto beans, different things that they would sell either at the flea market or they would call it Jewtown back then.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, yeah.
And you want to tell people, what was that at? Was that at Halsted or what was that?
Yeah, it was right off of Halsted on like 14th Street. It's all now University Village. But back then, that was all open land. And every Sunday, religiously, it would get full. Different people were selling everything from like vegetables to porn videos.
Trench coat.
Yeah. Oh man. And so you could get everything there, and it would get packed. And even on days it was like below zero.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you just put a can with wood and boxes, and you were selling.
Yeah. I remember
gold.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, gold.
Jewelry.
Everything, man. Everything. They have big, trucks parked that would sell like vinyl, and they would play like R&B music or like stepping music and stuff like that. So it was.
Man, that was in those years when you were still okay.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned they put you to work. You remember even working at that early age, like?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Since I was small, I think my parents grew up that way.
Yeah.
And they had a really hard life in Mexico. They actually had a child, that passed away because of starvation.
Oh no way.
Yeah. So to them, they worked like that was their way of giving us life.
Man.
So it was really hard on them, and I'm 1 out of 7, so they lost 3. So, now I have 3 older brothers. So yeah, it was very difficult for them. So when they came, my dad was doing everything he could do to earn money, and that's how he started his grocery stores and things like that.
Man, that's deep. Like to have that experience, I'm sure that's what propelled them to I can't let that happen again in a sense, right? I got to do whatever it takes to.
Yeah. They were willing to work, day and night. They would work full-time jobs, and then they would go out and sell outside of nightclubs, tacos, and they would sell groceries outside of Walgreens and fruit, and then on Sundays we sell in the flea market.
So it was nonstop, 7 days probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's, and then we would live like in an unfinished basement, so that they can rent and so yeah, because they were really trying to save their money. They wanted to open up a business, and so they knew what suffering was and what not having was. So they came and they were determined to work and make it
right.
Make it.
Man, I know you mentioned suffering, but also sounds like I'm thinking of the word sacrifice.
Yeah,
like you mentioned, like. Even living in an unfurnished basement, but it probably would imagine in order to save, for the vision that they had, I guess, right? Like the goals.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, man. But okay, so you're there in 26, and then you moved to Pilsen, probably what, like 5, 6 years old?
And that's when they opened up their store.
Okay.
Right on 18th Street, and they would start selling.
It was on 18 and what?
18 and Paulina.
Oh, okay.
Like there's a gas station there.
By the train tracks, right?
Yeah, right by the train tracks, right the middle of the block.
Oh, no way.
They were there for like 20-something years or
no
more.
Way.
Yeah. They did really well there. When they first started, it was just like they rented the store and they brought all the boxes of produce and stuff that they had, and they started selling outside. And my dad would cook a little meat on a little stove, and I was his worker, so I was like, he'd put me in a cashier, or he'd put me to fix produce and shelves as he got them, and my mom would still go to work, and he would still go to work, and they would have the store. So it was it was tough.
Yeah.
I know for them.
Okay. Now, what about you? Was it like tough? Like, I would imagine going to school and then going to work, or how did your life look like during those?
Well, I would get really frustrated because he would yell at me a lot. When you're little and you're in a cash register and you make mistakes, my dad's the butcher and he's looking at me. He's like, man, so,
With the knife.
Yeah. Oh man. So, there's customers that would try to rip you off. And a lot of times I didn't know the scams. Like they'd give me they show me a 20 and then give me a $2 bill or something and then want their change. And, when you're little, you get nervous, and I think I began to develop a lot of anxiety.
How old do you think you were during this time?
Probably, I would say like 7, 8, 9.
That's young to be handling money, man.
For a business, yeah. Oh man, and we work, work hours and stuff, and I watch all the kids walk, through the windows going to play baseball and stuff like that, and man, it just was. I was like, I want to go.
Yeah.
But it's just I was always helping my dad.
Now, was the whole family involved? I know you mentioned other brothers and stuff.
Yeah, by the time I think my next brother, I have 3 older brothers. He's probably like 6, 7 years older than me. So by the time I got to that age, they were already leaving. So they got involved into gangs. They were always in trouble. And so, there was a lot of like frustration on my parents, so I wouldn't really see them until they would come, and then they would stay, and then they would, kind of leave, so there was a lot of, like turmoil,
Gotcha.
For them.
Right. And I'm sure for them, and it affected everybody, obviously mom and dad, trying to do good, provide, but.
Yeah. And originally when my dad had them in Mexico, but my dad came, and then my mom came following him. And so they left my brothers in Mexico for about 4 years. And so they had me here. So by the time my parents were able to get everything together and go back and get them, they stayed with my aunts and a couple other, my grandma, and my grandpa, they were very mean to him, very abusive toward them. And so by the time they came back to the States, they were pretty much telling them, it's like, the reason your parents left is because they got a new kid, an American kid now. And, they don't want you guys no more, definitely that wasn't my mom and dad's heart, But that turned out to be very destructive between me and them, because they were very angry and towards me, And me, this whole time, my parents are like, yeah, you got your older brothers. Here's their pictures. You're going to see them. And, it wasn't the case.
Right.
So there was a lot of abuse that started, coming, through that.
From them, from your brothers.
Them, yeah, a lot of abuse, one of my brothers hit me in the face with a baseball bat, shot me in the face with a pellet gun and chest and and my butt,
Like penetrate?
Yeah, I still have a pellet that's lodged in the muscle of my cheek.
No way.
Yeah. So, and they couldn't remove it because of the way it got lodged. They said they would have to scar that muscle. This is a long time ago too, though.
Right.
And now it's actually moved forward where I can feel it. I could, But back then it was, because I was younger, I think, as I got older, it just got dislodged, So now it's like.
How old do you think you were when this happened?
Probably like 6.
Man.
Yeah, probably 6, 7.
Yeah, that's rough, because I know you mentioned. I'm sure a part of that had to be abandonment too, that they felt from being left over there, and you mentioned abuse on the part of the grandparents.
Yeah.
So it was just like they already came. It wasn't I wouldn't say necessarily you, but you were just like, I guess, a way for them to vent it.
An outlet, yeah. Just their anger and the frustration. It's a whole new culture here, So I think to them, there's, I think, this separation between, especially parents that immigrate here, and then the kids that are, assimilate into the culture that, they find other people to hang out with, and, and just a lot of anger, a lot of anger in them.
Right.
And they would have fights. They would go out. And my dad, he was actually in the military. He was a boxer, a Golden Glove boxer. And so my dad was a rough guy. He would tell you your truths. He wasn't a man for words. He was just, I work this and this and that. So, when he'd get upset, sometimes they would just punch us, or my brothers would go at it, and break stuff and my dad would let him fight. So there was that kind of that chaos, that would strike a lot of fear in me, and so, my way of kind of coping with things is I would just kind of go off to the side and not like detach and play with, with Star Wars figures or something, and just, hope that it didn't come my way, So yeah, it was very, very destructive. And I don't think I realized how much until I got older. Because it began to be like sexual abuse, and there was a lot of manipulation, kind of like, hey, I care about you, I love you, like, let's go to this room, and I wanted to be close to my brothers, and and they do what they wanted to do, and then it was a matter of like, you know what? If you tell anybody, I'll tell them you're gay, and they won't ever talk to you again. Or, now I'm going to mistreat you, and you're going to do whatever I want. And so they would be really nice to get what they wanted, or to lure me. And then it was, so it really, it messed, like, a lot of my way I would connect, and just the way I would feel. And, there was even times that my brother would come and I'd be playing and he'd start peeing on me, and he'd think it was really funny, he'd think it was really funny. And it just would, like, I'd get up and I'd just walk away, So.
Did anybody ever find out during that time, or you just kept it like quiet? Like,
you know what? I don't, like, I'll be honest, like, for a long time, there was blocks. They were just, I would black out. I wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
There was times like they sent me to school and I wouldn't know. I just keep walking. I wouldn't remember who I was or, where I was going, and there was a point where I stopped eating, and, my mom said she was like really scared because I just, took me to the doctor to try to figure out what was going on with me. And she said that one day I just started eating again. My mom, she's a very loving person, she's very, very kind. But I know years later, she told me that she knew what was going on. But she was just like, what can I do? Your brothers, like, we brought them here to try to make a family. Yeah. And to, she's like, how can, and then she kind of hinted that she had gone through similar things, and so, it was just difficult.
Yeah. Man, I know you mentioned like the mistreatment. I wonder maybe if even they went through that. Maybe Mexico, what I'm saying? Like and they were just probably repeating. Yeah,
it's what they saw. It's how they were treated.
Right.
And it's just it just continued on.
Right.
And with me, I would follow them everywhere. And it was just just because I was told I had these brothers that but it was a tough time.
Gotcha.
It was a tough time.
So that was going on, and I know you mentioned like your brothers, like wild and gangs. Like as you start getting older, I don't know, let's say like 8th grade, maybe going into high school. How does life look for you? Like what direction do you go? What was going on like in your life? Like
7th grade was really difficult because I went through a lot of bullying. I tried to protect the kid they were bullying, and instead it just turned on me. And I was just at one of those places where, I remember chasing a kid in class with a knife. And they had called the police and stuff like that, and someone had mentioned what was happening in the class, and they began to ask me, and I think that's what diffused it, with the teacher and things like that, and I don't even remember like talking to my mom or anything. I just remember getting so angry, or chasing them, I guess,
Right.
But my dad actually, 8th grade, he drove me to Mexico and with my family, and he wanted to put me in a monastery and leave me there. He just felt he didn't, he didn't want to lose me too, so. But the thing that had happened was that in the monastery, they walked me around. I got to see the place, and they told them, it's like, we had someone try to leave a American citizen here, a kid. But it's like, we got into trouble because we didn't have certain paperwork. So, like, these are the papers that we need. It's like, get these papers signed, and then you can bring them, and you can stay here. He's like, we'll keep them. My dad made a big donation to the church, and...
so they could keep you.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy,
Right.
but it's my dad.
This was what happened.
My dad's way of like trying to do something. With what was going on. With I'm sure he was overwhelmed and things like that. But on the way back, they took me to an amusement park because it's like, this is going to be the last time. My mom, she would be like, are you okay with it, mijo? I was like, I don't care. That's how I was like, I don't care, whatever, But they ended up changing their mind. They said they felt bad, at the end. And then they put me to Catholic school, from public to Catholic, and St. Anne's in Pilsen. And that's where I think things kind of began to change, because it was different than when I was in public school. The families the kids were different. And by then I was getting really detached. I wasn't, really paying attention to stuff and just showing up, and to some extent, a lot of it is like a blur. So it's So it was just tough.
Okay.
It was just tough.
But you went there, and then did you go to a high school?
Yeah.
There? Was it a Catholic high school too?
Catholic. I went to Quigley. And Quigley South, which is now St. Rita. This is on the south side of Chicago. So I would. And this is, just some things about me, because, I would work in the store, so I'd get change, and parents would give me money and stuff. So you're always in the cash register, they're giving me money and stuff. So I would just get on the train and go downtown, go to the video games. You're talking about like six.
Instead of going to school?
No, I'm just talking about as a kid. I'm trying to say just like my mentality. Like I would just get up and go places. It was just. And so come to high school, I would take, like, from Pilsen, the back then was a blue line, now they call it the pink line. I would get on Ashland, right there, 18th and Ashland. I would get off on California, on Western, and then I would take the bus straight to 79th and Western, So, that was my day, every morning there, every morning back,
That had to be like an hour commute, no? How long was it for you?
Maybe that.
Yeah, right. Because I'm thinking this
40 minutes, 50 minutes, So yeah, and it's by that time, I started playing baseball. My dad would, put me to work, and I would be like, hey, can I go? Like, I just want to walk to the park. I'd be like, okay, and I wouldn't come back. I'd go play baseball.
Well, we're at Harrison Park.
Harrison. Yeah. Sometimes we'd be up on the north side, and we were in front of a Walgreens. He's selling like some stuff, and some groceries. And, I'm working, and I was like, hey, can I go? And he's like, yeah. And I just would walk. It's kind of crazy, man.
Right.
I think about it, just where my mind was.
Right.
Like, just, so.
So that was like in the high school years.
Yeah.
Anything that stands out from those years,
I went and I wanted to try out for baseball, and I met some of my friends that I know to this day, and I think that it was them. One of my friends, his name is Tito, another guy Ernesto, that, man, they would just pursue, like we would play baseball, and he would protect me. He was a
I'm
bigger
gonna
kid.
adjust.
Yeah, he was a bigger kid, and he was, he'd get angry and he'd want to fight with people, but we would start just hanging out together, So whenever I had time, I'd go play baseball with him, and we got on team, and it was one of those things that I just believe God sent, just someone that would walk with me, because I always wanted to be alone, at night I go just in my room and shut off all the lights and just sit there in darkness, But with him, man, he just would bug me. He'd come looking for me, and it was hard for my dad to say no. For it's like, hey, can Rudy come play baseball with us? Like, who are you? He's got to work. It's like, yeah, we'll come back, and man, it was, I think, and I've told them, I think it was because of those friendships that I didn't put a bullet in my head.
No way.
Yeah, that
so
young.
Could I ask you, like, at what age do you think those thoughts came to you? Like, just, man, let me escape this. Like,
I can think of things probably as early as like 5. I would just want to run into a street. I'd almost feel like there was something telling me to run into the street. Just like this voice. It just, it was terrible. Like, in a sense,
Like, when you look back, do you think it was spiritual too?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously all that was in the natural. Everything that was happening to you was real, but you think that had a spiritual aspect, like that voice?
Yeah, and and these are things that we got time here, right? There was just abuse even with babysitters, and I think it followed me. I feel like it was like something that, people would sense it in me, I could be standing there with, I remember one time I was standing, helping my mom in the store, and we had like an aisle, like cashier, and a guy just came up and he looked at me and he started humping me. And my mom, she was like, so it was probably like 8 or 9 at the time. And I froze. Like I was just like, I didn't respond. I was just like, and my mom, like, she like threw something at him, and he said that he likes little boys, and he
just like that.
Yeah, and this is in the store with customers, middle of the day, and my mom, she like yelled at me. She was like, "How could you ever let anybody, like do that to you?" But I feel like I was just conditioned.
Yeah.
It was just.
It was already happening.
Yeah, it was just. So I didn't know how to respond. And so there was this chaos in my head. So, it is when it came to my friends, like it was like to me, it was like heaven,
Yeah.
but just playing baseball and out in the fields and stuff, and
like having fun, man.
Yeah,
being a
yeah,
kid,
yeah,
and, man,
having fun,
having people that are, man, they want to see you like good, like the good for you, instead of
just talking about baseball and talking about baseball players and their batting stands, and you play Swift, you throw a rubber ball against a block, and score, and it was we began to just hang out all the time together. We were so competitive, with each other, and I had gotten like a Nintendo, and then we would play, and then by now I think my dad kind of let go. They stopped, and so I was out like playing, and I would come back and help them in the store or whatnot, and but I was determined to like leave, So yeah, it was
like you mentioned, it was almost like life saving at that time. Those relationships are those friends still around?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tito Ernesto, another friend of mine, Dave. He also went to Quigley. And we just, it was those years that I just felt, man, God just sent someone, that would just be like, how you doing, Rudy?
Yeah.
You know, looking for me and stuff. And,
Right.
and I was like, man, just leave me alone. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, come on, let's go play baseball. You know, like, you know, even though I wanted, but like, there was this aspect to me that I was detached. I checked out, you know. I understand it now, but like back then it was just like,
Yeah. Like in the moment, when you look back, then you could see what was going on, how you were thinking and feeling, and how it was affecting you and all that. Like,
yeah.
So that was high school. Like college, did you end up going to college? Or?
Yeah. You know, and my senior year at Quigley, it's a seminary. It's a Catholic seminary. One of the priests, Father Zorn, you know, he taught religion class, but he's one of those priests that would swear. You know,
Get out of here,
he'd swear.
I've never seen one
he'd
of
tell
those.
jokes, you know,
yeah?
and he was just like. But I remember him pulling me like kind of aside and saying like you know, he's like, you know, every time you're in this class, he's like, you know, I have these students that he's like, I have them in other classes. They're nerds, as he would put it. He's like, they never say nothing, but when you're there, they're troublemakers. It's like you bring something in them out that I don't see anywhere else. He's like, I think you have a gift. He's like,
of what, troublemaking?
What he was saying of getting people
influence, maybe?
Yeah, like getting people that are kind of closed off to talk. And he was like, he's like, you should really think about being a priest. He's like, you know, someone, you know, had seen that in me. It's like that I would, you know, that he would bring that out in people. And he's like, I think you can, you know, God can really use you, you know? And it stuck in my head because, like, I think for once it was like, outside of like wanting to be in the major leagues, you know, like purpose, like a calling, like, you know, something, you know, that was future.
Do you think he was the first one that sparked that in you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. When he said that and he talked to me and I was like, man, you know what? Like, I could begin to see that. You know, I could begin to see how there's I have like a certain kind of influence, like a connection that like I bring out certain things in some people, you know, and I just, it stayed with me. And so when graduating from high school, my next step was to go to Niles College Seminary, which was that step before the priesthood.
Okay.
You know, so I made that choice and I went and asked him for a letter of recommendation and, you know, I made that decision to go, you know, it was, it's like, I don't know, like just things kind of got my words right now, but, you know, it was there when I went, man, you know, my heart is like, man, like I want to serve you, God, like I want to know you. I began to take like my faith as a Catholic more serious. And my parents, they never went to really church.
Okay.
You know, outside when they went to Mexico, they would try to go every year, you know. There, they would go like on Christmas. They would go, you know, sometimes like during Easter, you know. But it was, you know, when you go out there, like, you don't really ever enter the church. There's like so packed. You know? So we were here like in Latin, I think, you know, we didn't really understand, you know. But, you know, so it was, I began to take my faith like more serious.
Yeah.
You know, but then, you know, in the seminary, there was a lot of people that were drinking, they were partying, you know, and man, once I started drinking, you know, things changed. Like I started getting so drunk, you know.
Is that the first time you started drinking at that age?
Yeah.
Oh, even younger, you didn't touch?
No. I mean, I think one of my friend Ernesto, we might have had like a drink.
Okay.
You know, but just kids, like, you know. But there, I started drinking, and I think that's when, like, a lot of anger started coming out. A lot of, you know, just, man, and that drinking just, it became, and going clubbing and you know, and you wouldn't think you're going to seminary.
Right. So you start getting drunk at seminary. That's crazy.
Yeah. You know,
it was wine, though. It was wine, right?
Well, it's crazy because, like one time I got so drunk driving down the 90, because this was in Niles. So I would take the.
It's by past Skokie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
well,
no, Niles is in that area or no?
No, I don't think it's like, I can't think of, Glenview, like out,
Okay.
like out that way.
All right.
No, by the O'Hare, like towards out there.
Oh, okay,
like,
yeah.
Like, and I got pulled over by the police, and I was straight DUI, right? But the police officer was like, "Where are you going?" Blah, blah, blah. I was like, "Going to Niles College Seminary." He's like, "What do you do there?" "I'm a student. I'm studying to be a priest." He's like, "You're really gonna be a priest?" It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I'm gonna drive you to the seminary. You follow me, right?" And he drove me. And he when he got out, when I got
like
out,
an escort.
yeah, and he was like, "Hey, finish and pray for me," And I was like, "Okay."
He must have been a Catholic.
Yeah,
you could atone for some of my sins, man.
Yeah. It was,
Yeah.
you gotta, just it makes you laugh.
No,
It makes you
right.
laugh,
It's crazy. This was probably like in the 90s, I'm gonna imagine.
well, I graduated in 92, so this would be like 93,
Yeah,
94.
Yeah, the DUIs back then, they were different, man. I remember like my dad too, in the 80s and stuff. He said, man, they'll drive you home. It was different than now, obviously. It wasn't as harsh. People drinking, they were more lighter, I guess, back then. But
Yeah.
So you start drinking there. So what happens with that path of wanting to be a priest? Do you continue? Does it stop, or what?
Well, it's. I think my junior year, there was one of the men there that was he was going to Mundelein, which is where you actually get ordained, and he was doing all his paperwork. And I remember sitting in a room with him, asking him like, "Hey, man, like, how did you come to that decision?" A lot of people here feel it's a joke. He's like, "Man, but like, I actually do feel like there's calling, like." And, he's just telling us, how it worked out for him and how he made his decision. And they had obviously the chapel. And I went to the chapel and I remember like in the back of the chapel, they had this little balcony. And I was just like, God, I'm thinking about doing this. And, if this is what you want from me, let me know, like help me understand that this is the right thing for me to do, And, I prayed, and 6 months later, I had been kicked out.
Give me a sign, and here's your sign. Huh?
He answered, and, but by then, I had, there was a young lady that I had met, and, I was, kind of dating her and bringing her to the university, and, there were things that would happen there at the seminary, that were, I would work there over the summer, and we would go out and move the boyfriends of the priest. We'd move them, from one place to another, or we'd, they would have parties and stuff, and we would clean up after the parties. We would put away the kegers and all the bottles and
Of the priest?
Yeah. I'm serious, and I'm talking about like,
Oh, right.
Your ordinary parish priests. I mean, these are priests that are running seminary. These are priests that, and you would hear things, and I think it was at that time, like kind of seeing that it began to like really change, like my view of them and of God, because I always kind of viewed them as, men of God.
Oh, yeah.
One time, me and one of the guys in the seminary, we stole all the liquor. They were so drunk. We took all the kegs and the bottles and we put it in our room. And, one of the priests came up and he was like, Rudy, it's like, we were wondering if you remember, you still have the tap for the kegs because we have to return them. I was like, no, we didn't know that we left after you guys. And all that stuff was put in one of our rooms, one of the dorms, and one of my friends, and And it just so happens that, I think it was a Saturday night, they were partying like, and so Sunday, my friend, his parents came to visit him, and good Catholics, we came, our son, he's, and they walk into his room and all the liquor's there. Cakers. And he was like, Rudy, I'm so mad at you. I was like, man, I didn't know they were going to come.
Right.
But yeah, it started kind of what would have been, a real like bad cycle, because that school year, I moved in with, we had the dorms, I had a new roommate, and it turns out like, this guy, he was gay, and I would have these drawings I would put up on the wall, and he was like, why do you put that stuff up there? And, he would tear them down, and, he would, like, I'd wake up sometimes and he'd be standing over me, and I began to get really freaked out. And one day he's like, hey, I'll give you a ride back to, Chicago. And I was like, yeah, but it's like, let me get some money. It's like, I'll take you out to eat, and, we went, he stopped by a church, by his house. He went in and came back with money. And I'm like, it's like, well, what are you doing in there? He's like, I went to get money. He's like, I got it from the offering. It's like, the offering box. Yeah, got it from the box. It's like, bro, you can't do that. Like, bro. He's like, don't worry, I got keys to the place. Like, don't worry about it. It's like, let's go out to eat. I was like, man. And it was, and I went and told the main priest, I don't even want to say names.
No, right.
But, and I remember, he's like, well, tell me exactly what happened, and blah, blah, blah. And, and I was like, well, this is what happened. He's like, well, it turns out that, he turned against me, and he started, just, long story short, I got expelled.
Yeah. It's crazy because you mentioned he had the keys. So when you went to report him, he was already probably in with them. If he had access to
that parish was not the one. No, it wasn't the seminary. That was another parish by his house, and he lived on the north side. So this was something. But once I got kicked out, the seminary came after me, and because we would do all these fundraisers for like the city of Chicago, we would serve some of the elite of Chicago, like that Mayor Daley and all these millionaires that would donate to the Catholic Church. So we would come in our suits, we would serve them, and they would donate to the seminary, and some of that you would go towards our tuition, and things, room and board, because man, we had really good food, I got sued by the Catholic Church. I got expelled, and then they froze my transcripts when I went to Loyola, and I couldn't go back to school. So, and then when I tried to talk to them, they wouldn't answer, wouldn't talk to me or anything, And so I felt really hurt. I felt really angry, at the Catholic Church, and them, and I felt like man, like what you guys are doing is wrong. Like, and and then when they sued me in court, like they had a panel of attorneys, and it was just me, and they're asking me like, man, do you have a bed? Do you have a radio? Do you what do you have? That collateral, like because you got to pay this debt. And it got so bad that in court that they, when I was in front of the judge, and I was working for UPS then, that the judge got upset with them because they were like, this person, they were just, I was just sitting there and like not even, just blanked out, just.
You were going to court with no lawyer?
No lawyer. And the judge is like, hey, why are you doing this to him? Like, why are you talking about him like this? It's like, you know what? He works for a Fortune 500 company. It's like UPS. You can just call them and find out what he makes. It's like, that's simple, And he told me, he's like, like you need help. Like there's, I don't like, and I kid you not, like I don't remember. Like I remember the judge being so angry, and like yelling at them. It's like, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves,
What they're doing to you.
Yeah,
like,
in court, But I just, I was just different mentally. And other students who had happened to, they got an attorney. And I think because they did that and the attorney began to represent all of them Hispanic, it changed what happened to me.
Oh, yeah.
And they changed what the amount was to like I think it was like 12,000 or 13,000.
What was the initial?
It was like 30-something thousand. It was a lot. It was a lot. But one of the things that, like, with the priest, that the main priest, what he told me, I remember just kind of like being frustrated. And I'm jumping now.
Yeah.
But he was like, it's like the only reason you're here is because the people don't want white people who speak Spanish as priests overseeing them. It's the only reason you're here. It's like and made me so angry.
He said that while you were still in school or after?
Yeah, well, I was still in school. Like right when I was going through the whole process, I was being kicked out and stuff like that. And he's like, you guys don't belong here, And I never really saw, like, I think it didn't connect to me, the racism.
And this is coming from like the main.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think they still have the late Cardinal Bernardine. I think he passed away like that year. I think it was my junior year. Because they would be having, and I say they, like, a bunch of white kids, and the priests, they'd be reading the Bible. And I'd be like, hey, what are you guys doing? It's like, oh, man, how can we help you? It's like, man, you guys reading the Bible? Like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, well, when you know what you need help with, you can come back. It's like, but you guys are reading the Bible? Like, I said, yeah. It's like, what do you need? I said, all right. And here they would have like Wednesday, like prayer and different things like that. So, when all of this happened, and I got kicked out, I got sued, I got my transcripts frozen. Man, I was like, you know what, God, like, after you.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna live my life. Yeah. And that's when I think the wheels fell off, because then I was partying. I became a DJ. I started, playing at clubs and, just drinking. I wake up different places, it was, and, my friends, we Frantino, like, we would go out and party and stuff like that, and it was just, it was just really angry. Just, man, like, I hated everything about myself. Hated my last name. I hated the color of my skin. I hated, man, I grabbed the gun and I'd just be sitting there.
Oh,
yeah. And I don't know what it was, but there was just always something, man, that would, like, I don't know, just speak to me. Just something to distract me. You're in that place and you're just like, just angry, it was tough, man. It was tough, and you don't feel nothing. You're just one day after another. And as I became a better DJ, I'd get booked all over the place. People got to know me, got popular, and I was, that was my life. And I wouldn't even remember DJing. Half the time I have like little bottles of like Hennessy or I Christian Brothers, little bottles. and man, I'd be down in them and I'd be up there DJing. I wouldn't remember what happened. People would come up, Rudy, that was an amazing set you threw down. Like, I don't remember. I don't remember. And I think about it now. It's like so demonic, man. It was, and I got really into witchcraft. I got really, since I was small, like I was young, like I'd be at the flea market. I tell them, like we'd be working there, and they'd have curandera, or one of the brujas or whatever, and I'd come over and I'd be looking at stuff. It was I was just really curious about it, and it felt, my Catholic faith. I didn't really feel there was power or anything, but like, she would do tarot cards and stuff like that, and she'd start talking to me, but now when I'm drinking and partying, now I'm really getting into witchcraft. Now I'm like, really, man, like Ouija boards, man.
Oh, no way.
And I went to one of the ladies. It was a witch or bruja, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I want what you have. He's like, are you sure? I was like, I want what you have.
Oh, how old are you at this time? Like,
now I'm like 22, 21.
Yeah.
22, 23
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. And she put the tarot cards in my stomach, and she was like, "Now you got it." And man, I began to be able to read tarot cards, and I was so into it. It was. But I felt it was power, like, because I feel like I had visions, like I knew things about people,
right.
I knew things about their house. I was doing spells, and I was reading books, and I felt like, this like new age, just all, like, man, it was, it like I felt I was balanced now, like I was, enlightened, and I had control of my emotions and all this stuff, and so I felt like I had found it. It was power there.
It wasn't with God when you said F you, but you found it now in here, right? Like,
yeah, but I had already kind of shifted to this mind that, like, God is energy, that God is like you, right? That he's that pretty much your God, but like back then, that there was authority in all these things, and just kind of like you could speak things into existence, and and then you're clubbing and you're doing all this stuff, and I started selling nitrous tanks.
Oh, okay.
I call them whippets and stuff.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, it's like laughing gases.
Yeah,
what is it? Yeah. Right.
They would give it like a dentist, I think, like medical, and then just like industrial,
And you were selling them with balloons, right?
Yeah. We do raves. Back then, there was a lot of raves. And
So people that don't know, what does that look like? You got the tank, and
you're at a tank, and you got your bag of balloons, and kids are lining up. You're charging $5 a balloon, And these raves, they had like thousands of kids, man. Later on, a lot of kids started dying because of ecstasy and different things, But man, like, you buy a tank for like $225, and you're making $1,000 off of it,
right.
So I was like, man, why sell weed?
Yeah.
I could drive around with my truck full of tanks, man, better business, right? And I get pulled over, and they're like, what's that?
How now nitrous, like, how easy was it to get? Where would you get it back then?
Well, back then there was a Connect on the north side, and it was, you certain people were able to go and get it for you, so they upcharge you, So a tank that maybe they pay $175, they were charging $250, $300,
right,
$325 for it, Obviously, if you're making a G on it, you're not.
Yeah, it's not.
But when you're using it, and that's, I think, when I started really, like, I wasn't a person could ever smoke. I never could do weed. It would give me migraines, But drinking, I could, But nitrous, I couldn't. So, man, it was, full-blown addiction. I sell tanks out of the garage, and we ended up getting, when my friend, we ended up getting a connection. We just were looking for nitrous tanks, and one of them walked into a medical facility where they had tanks, and the guys started selling us the tanks. Yeah. And so, at first we were paying them a lot. We were paying like $225 or something like that. But then it was like, we're buying 10, 15, 20 tanks, 30 tanks, 40 tanks. So now we're like, man, you got to give me to like 125, man. And my addiction just,
What did the nitrous do for you? Like when you would take it, how did you make you feel? What made it so addictive, I guess?
It was like the music gets louder. Like you're almost like think of like something's black and white, and all of a sudden it's 3D. Color, like like, music all around. You're in this place and that,
The zone.
Yeah. And then it would go away and you're normal. You're not, you're back to your senses. You don't have the effects that maybe you would have in other drugs where, it has to go leave your system.
Because nitrous is very temporary, right? That feeling.
Yeah.
Like then maybe like a minute or what, like 2
seconds, I think,
right?
at first, but then you develop a tolerance to it, and it lasts longer. Well, at first maybe it lasts longer and then it got shorter, but then you're doing more and more and more, and you would have visions. You'd have like, and that's why I think like the magic and the witchcraft became, because
even more real. When
because you're like praying, and you're doing this and that, or not praying, you're doing your incantations and things like that, and so it was really empowering. But then I could feel I was starting to lose like control. Like, I was doing lighting, I had my lighting company then, and I love music. It's just something about me I can get lost in, and I started missing gigs, because I was just doing the nitrous. I'd be in the garage or in a truck and just doing nitrous, and just like, oh man, it was getting out of control,
Did you end up just having a mask directly to the tank or no?
We would think of all sorts of things.
It was still balloons.
Never that, we put it in water and the water under it would stop it from freezing when you're using it, so it lasts a little longer. Or you'd bang them and inside would freeze, and then the nitrous would break apart, and then it'd become like you'd get more. So there was like every way you could think of trying to figure out, and we, I remember reading online what nitrous did. It really depleted your body of like vitamin like B12 and things like. So I went and started buying vitamin B12 because like I'm losing it.
Yeah, I didn't even get it. Yeah,
it was silly, man. It was silly,
How many years did this last? Like, is this lifestyle that you were in? And
I gotta say, from like 22 to about 26.
What did something happen that brought about a change around that age at 26?
Well, yeah, I was getting high in the garage. Well, really, it was in the truck, and friends would come by and they'd get high too, and I'd be selling tanks. So it was like kind of like I sit here, I get high, I sell, and I'm making money, and And by now, like, my mom's really worried, because they didn't understand what tanks were, and they had a grocery store. So, I'd bring the tanks and I'd put them in the, and she's like, "What are they?" "Oh, no, they're for parties and balloons and stuff like that." We started figuring out it was more, and I would sleep like all day, and I was up at night, like every day. And I was clubbing like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday sometimes, and then I was like drinking at clubs like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then here you are when you were making money, you're like $50, keep the tip. I bought 3 coronas, another 50, keep, it's you're just spending money, But what ended up happening is like, I'm sitting in this high cube truck, and, I'm getting high, and some of my friends, they went to go do something and they were going to come back, and I'm getting high. And then, I'll say this beforehand, like the first thing that I started noticing that was very different is that I'd wake up and I would start crying. I had no idea. Wasn't sad, I sit in the mirror like, what the hell? Why was I crying? It's weird, like, man, hey guys, you guys ever just start crying? Nah, man. I was like, all right, man. And we have conversations about God and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like spirituality stuff. But when you're it's but there was just something in me that I think just connected to, like, when I was younger, when I was a little kid, I was like 4 or 5, and they had a hernia because I was lifting stuff, and I ended up developing a hernia.
Yeah.
And, I remember that they had to take blood, and I remember, like being in line to take blood, I saw that needle, and I remember just saying, God, please help me. I'm so afraid. I don't want to do that needle. Like, please, like, help me. Like, and phone call, it was a doctor. The kid doesn't need to get his blood drawn. It stuck with me. It stuck with me that I had this little kid. Like, it just stuck. That
way out that you remembered, like,
yeah. And so, and now here I'm in the truck and I'm getting high and man, like, I could feel like something was wrong, you know, like something, you know, was different. And I would look up and the high cube truck, because of the lights and it's dark outside and wherever, you can see like a little bit of light on the top. Yeah, you can see a little bit of light on the top, and I remember like saying, like, you know what, like, God, if you're real, it's like, I'm telling you right now, like, unless you do something, like, it's gonna get crazy, you know. Like, I felt it, you know, like I felt it in my spirit, like just kind of those crossroads, you know, you know. And, you know, I was talking to this guy about selling like a ton of tanks in Indiana. And I was like, man, it's going to be a ton of money. And, you know, I'm excited, but I had this partner with me and I was like, man, I got to get rid of this guy, you know? But I remember looking up and just saying, man, like, there's got to be more. You know, it's got to be more to this. It's like just selling these tanks, making money. I see my parents making money, like, you know, and I would look up and I was just like, man, it got to be real. Like, show yourself, you know, because if you don't, I'm telling you, you know, and as I was just getting high, you know, like there was this part of me that was just like, I looked up and I was like, you know what, God, like, help me, you know, like, if you're real, like, just help me. And then there was somebody like sitting next to me, and he was like, man, why are you talking to him? And I was like, man, like, why are you talking to him? It's like, man, it's like, I know you. Like, man, we're going to make a ton of money, man. It's all good, you know? And I was like, yeah. And man, I could see the money, you know, I could see like the trucks, I could see the pool, I could see the house, you know, I could see, and I was like, yeah, yeah, let's do this. Like, man, I'm in, man. Like, man, I'm about money, you know, I'm, you know, and then I would just look up and something would just like grieve my heart. And, you know, this person's like, he's talking to me. It's like, man, it's all good. Like, don't talk to him. But there was this part, man, where I was just like, God, help me see. And it was when I said that word, help me see. And I looked at him, and he was the devil. He was red. I mean, obviously I don't understand the devil's like red, but like I looked at him and I was like, you know, like, you're the devil. And he's like, you knew I was the devil? I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't know you were the devil. He's like, you've always known. Who do you think you serve? You don't serve him. Look at everything you do, man. You serve me. I was like, nah, man, nah. He's like, don't talk to me like that. He's like, I'll destroy you. He's like, I'll kill your mom. He's like, I'll destroy her. And man, I thought my mom, you know, my jefita, you know, like, oh man, nah. And I was just like, oh, and all of a sudden, like, he disappeared and, you know, started, you know, I could feel like something was moving around and like these letters were on the walls. And I got out that truck and I was like, what the heck just happened? You know, it's like, man, I got to get high some more. That was an amazing experience. I mean, I think about it now. I'm just like, oh my goodness, you know. But some guys were coming to pick up some tanks, and I went to the garage now where I had like a ton of tanks, and I walked in there, I gave them the tanks, and you know, I went in the garage. I had my truck, this brand new truck, TVs, Nintendo. I mean, TVs all around the truck. I mean, who does that?
Right.
You know, it's just like, I think about it now. It's like, man, what was that? What were you doing, Rudy? And you know, I want to listen to the music, But I didn't want to leave my truck out there so the police wouldn't come and they would ask. So I put the car in the garage. And I closed the garage, you know? And now I'm listening to music. I put it up. I'm jamming. I'm getting high, you know? Somebody, you know, get some calls. Hey, what time you coming, man? Like, oh, yeah, we'll be there later on. I'm going to pick up some food. Like, all right, cool, man. So here I am. I'm in the garage, and the car's going, you know? And then all of a sudden, there's light in that room. Like, think of a dark garage, you know? All of a sudden, there's light. All of a sudden, it's like clear as day. I know there's a God. I've always known there was a God. And I've always known I wanted nothing to do with him. And that tank, there was these chains. They were, you know, like kind of like this, and they were hooked on me. And as I was filling the balloon, when it would go, shh, really, it was like, help, like people crying out for help, you know? And now I'm freaked out. And I could see those little, like, it was like these little spirits with wings, you know, and they're holding the chain, and they're like, just a little bit more in your arms, you know? And I fall on my knees, and I was just like, God save me. Like, if you save me, I will tell people about you. And it was at that moment that a bright light came into that garage. So bright, powerful light. And I was thrown to my face on the floor. And you know, I could see on my hand, I was like a leper. I was like white and ashy, you know? And those spirits got like torn apart. Like when this person came in that room, tore them apart. If you can imagine someone screaming, like how it would sound, like someone's torn apart, like that scream, like a horrific scream. I could hear them scream, like how they were torn apart, you know? And someone was in front of me. I couldn't look up at them. Someone was in that room, you know? And then I was just on my knees, flat, you know? I'm sorry. It was just flat. And then, you know, something took me, like where I was sitting, someone took me high up. And it was darkness around me. And I was like, you know, what's this? You know, where am I at? And he was like, you think you're a God. You're no God. You're a God of nothing. There's nothing around me. It's emptiness, you know. And I was brought back down. And as a kid, you know, I would, probably around 7, I would break into houses. And I had not remembered that, you know. I had broke into this house, and, you know, I was going through the guy's bed, and I had a knife. And, you know, the guy came in. I didn't realize he was in the bathroom. I was going under his mattress, you know, searching his house and stuff. And he came out, and I went at him. And I remember the fear that was in his face, you know. He was a Hispanic guy. And I ran out the house. I jumped out the window. And I was in the alley. And I was like, but it felt good. It was like adrenaline. Like, but I remember something just said, what you're doing is wrong. And I see you. And I was filled with fear, you know? And I never did that again, you know? I hadn't remembered that. Had not remembered that. And, you know, my brothers had a lot of trouble with their kids, and my mom ended up taking them in. So they would live with us, you know? And, you know, they would make me really angry. You know, they would break stuff. They'd break my records, and they wanted attention. You know, they were young. But I would get so angry and yell at them. I would grab them. It's like, man. It's like, dude, your mom don't even want to see you, man. You know? Mom don't care about you. She was supposed to come. She didn't come. They start crying and stuff, you know? And I remember that very same thing. And I remember the words just saying, and something thrown into the water, and just words saying, man, it's better to be thrown into the water, you know, with a cement block around your neck than what it's going to be what you do to those little kids, you know? And man, when I got up, I was just like, forgive me. Like, I don't know who you are, you know? I don't know who you are, you know? I'm sorry. Like, help, you know? And the first thing something said, get out that garage. I got out that garage. The freaking car was on. I forgot the car was, I wasn't trying to kill myself. Forgot the car was on. And I closed the garage. I don't know how long this took, you know? But I remember like standing outside the garage, and I popped open the garage, the door opener, and, you know, I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, dang.
Man.
But I went back into that garage, and I was like, man, it's a crazy experience. Another balloon. But nothing. I didn't get high. Nothing. I was like, now I was freaked out. There was some Coronas that were left out, but it was water. I was like, what the heck is this? You know, what just happened? I wanted to get high again.
Yeah.
Because then I was getting, like, I was scared, but then I was like tripped out, and, you know, I'd get tripped out again almost, you know? I was like, oh my God, what happened? Like, something's different, you know? But now things were different around me. Like, I sensed things had changed, you know? And then I got this pain in my stomach, you know? I was like, oh, I didn't realize I hadn't eaten in days. I was so busy getting high. You know? I was like, oh, so I'm gonna go to Lawrence's. And I'm gonna go and get some shrimp.
Yeah,
you know,
shrimp,
over there on Canal Street. Yes. So I drove, you know.
Spot, yep.
Yeah, and I drove. And back then, it's not the way it looks now. It's like real ghetto. You know, it was like always like a bunch of people out there, and so I got my shrimp, and I parked my truck, and I'm a brand new truck. You know, I'm sitting there eating my shrimp, and then this station wagon pulls up, and then there's a guy, and these guys come up to him, right? And they got CDs, and he's like, you know, 20 or whatever, and gives him the CD. And my truck is a little higher, so it's a station wagon. And the guy opens it, and there's drugs in there, the CD, you know? And then a little kid comes up from behind, like, Dad, I want to go home. And I was like, what kind of lowlife does that? You know, selling, like, in front of his kid, like. And then something just told me, that's what you do, the nitrous. You know? We'd be at parties, you know, filling balloons, and the kids are curious. So you give them a balloon, but you tie it up, and they're like doing what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
Because we'd be at people's houses, you know? Throwing house parties, you know? Yeah. And man, I was so ashamed, you know? I just was like, I'm a bad person. Like, everybody knows what I do, like, just so much shame. And then I started to get on the, you know, on Halstead or what was it, like Cermak, to go back home, and something in me was just like, man, just drive, go to Wisconsin. It's like, start all over, you know. It's like, you know, no one cares about you. Shame, you know. And I was like, all right, I have a lot of money in my pocket. So I was like, yeah, I'm going. And as I got on the freeway, I got a vision, like, of my mom, that my mom had stayed up praying for me, you know? That she was on the table, you know, and she was just like, she fell asleep. You know, she was praying for me. And then, man, it was about to jump 94 Wisconsin, or 290 going west towards Cicero, you know. I just turned towards Cicero, you know. No cars. It's like 7 in the morning. Like 6, no, like 6, yeah. No, like 5, something, like 6 in the morning. No cars, not a single car. It was weird. You know, you're driving, and I'm like, man, this is out of this world. Yeah. Like something, you know. And, you know, I got to the house. I went upstairs, and my mom was sleeping on that table, you know. And, you know, I was just like, man. Well, my brother, you know, he went to prison, my oldest brother, and, you know, he had come back a believer. But, you know, we always made fun of him, you know, because he came back, didn't want to watch movies, didn't want to listen to music, you know, want to tell us about Jesus. And we're like, you know, oh, here's the Padrecito, you know, la curita, you know. Right. And you know, but I just had this experience, you know. So, you know, this is the next day, you know, I'm burning, you know, back then when you make music, you had to like put the songs on MP3s on the file from, and then you had to burn it and then it had to finalize the CD or else it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
you had to finalize it,
yeah.
right? So, you know, I was putting all these songs and stuff like that, and you know, my brother's like, hey man, like I have court, you know, in Kalamazoo. He's like, man, can you please take me? I was like, no, I ain't going to Kalamazoo. You're crazy. You know, I ain't going to take you. He's like, come on, man, please, man. Like, it's like, you know, fine, bro. Like, I was like, dude, you're always in trouble. You always freaking need help, you know? Like, fine, you know? So I'm sitting there, you know, putting the music and, you know, he's like, hey, man, can you put one song on there for me? He's like, you know, so we can, you know, you're going to play it in your car, right? And I was like, nah, man, I ain't putting your Christian music out here, bro. I know what you're asking. Like, nah, man, I want to hear that, you know? And he's like, come on, man, just one song. I was like, fine. What song? He said, man, it's Sumérgeme, you know? I was like, so I looked it up for him. I think it was LimeWire at the time, you know? Downloaded the song, put it on the thing, and then he's like walking away or whatever. And then as I'm sitting there, I get this feeling like someone's there. And I'm like, and then the cans fall off the aisle. And I'm like freaked out now, you know? And like, man, something's different, man. These, you know, I think these spirits said that they were my friends and not my friends no more, you know? And you know, my brother comes back and he's like, hey man, what happened? Like here. It's like the shopping carts are all moved. I was like, nah, man, I think some crazy stuff is going on. You know, I had this experience with God, you know. He's like, you did? He's like, yeah, you know. He's like, I know God now. I said, really, you know Jesus? Well, yeah, I know God, you know. And, you know, he's like, man, let me tell you, you know, and I have to do it. I don't want to hear about your God. Like, I know God now. Like, I had this experience. I start telling him, you know. And he's like, nah, man, like, you need Jesus. I was like, nah, bro, like, I had this experience, this amazing experience, you know, man. And I said, I was sorry, you know? And he's like, well, you know, we got to get some sleep before, you know? Like, let's just go upstairs or whatever. And so I'm walking out of the store with them. And then he's like, he stops me and he says, Rudy, do you want to accept Jesus as your Savior? And I had this Arizona bottle, big bottle, you know? And boom, I busted in his head, you know? But I didn't do it. Like, I thought I did. Because he was like, he was, in what I had saw, he was bleeding. And he was like screaming. But then, like, I had the bottle in my hand. He's like, Rudy, what are you doing? And the bottle just fell and I lost it. Like, I just freaked out, you know? And I started crying, like sobbing, like just sobbing uncontrollably. Like, I didn't know what was real or what wasn't real anymore. Like, just, you know, I hadn't like slept, you know, it was just, and went upstairs and my brother's like, hey man, do you want to accept Jesus as your Savior? And I started laughing, but I was like, I do. And he asked me to pray with him. And the moment I started praying with him, man, something manifested, man. I saw like myself, but with black eyes and that thing was just like, you know? And I was like, and then I had this incredible joy. I mean, it was like, it's like sunshine, you know, just, it was just so much beauty, so much peace. It was just incredible, you know? And my brother's like, you know, man, God loves you, you know? He's going to begin to show you some things. He's just talking to me, you know? And I'm like, okay, man. I'm talking. Now I'm like chippery, like, man, what's, like, man, like, I'm so happy. Like, man, I feel free. Like, I feel like something left me, you know? He's like, man, like what you were doing, it's like, it was dangerous. It's like, you know? And I was like, okay. You know, I was like, yeah. It's like, he's like, well, it's like, man, it's already time for me to go. Like, let's go, man. So I'm like, cool. And I had this truck that I told you, man, I had TVs, had like big, crazy sound system, you know, like I had extra batteries in the back. And so my sound system, like if the battery died for some reason, you couldn't just jump it. Like my stereo, you had to put in the code and you had to like get a big, like we had to use our work truck to jump it or else it just took forever, you know? So, you know, I'm sitting in the car and car's dead. And I'm like, oh man, I'm getting really frustrated now. My brother's like, hey, relax. Like, you know, God is, you know, it's okay, you know? I'm like, nah, bro, you don't understand. Like, this car's dead. Like, I made sure it wasn't dead. Like, dude, like, I gotta go get, like, you know what? Let's just, like, you know what? I can't, he's like, Rudy, let's pray. I go, what the hell is praying gonna do? Like, come on, like, it's freaking dead. Look. Rudy, let me pray. I say, bro, like, I'm just sitting there, like, you know? And he starts praying over the car. And he's like, I'll try it. And prayed in Jesus' name and the whole thing, you know? So then, you know, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to try it. The car's dead. Like, don't you understand that? It's like, no, try it. Let me tell you, I freaked out. To me, God had always been like this God that, you know, was in the supernatural, was never in the natural realm. You know, he's not the kind of God that turns green lights or, you know, moves one thing to another place, you know, I almost felt like he didn't really mess with us. You know, if that makes sense, you know, like that wasn't his thing kind of thing, you know, and to see that happen shocked me. I couldn't explain it. And then my TV comes up and I have to enter the codes, which told me it was dead. You know, and this is the other kicker. Before I gave my life to the Lord, we're in the store where I'm recording the CD, and then the computer shuts off. And so the CD pops out. And whenever it did that, it means it didn't finalize. It's no good. Right. So then, you know, I'm like, dude, I throw it in the garbage. And my brother's like, grabs it. He's like, dude, it's no good. He's like, he took it with him. So here we are driving. So it's quite a few hours over there. He puts the CD and guess what's the only song that works?
Sumérgeme.
I never heard the song. But here I'm driving and it starts off with like Cansado del Camino.
Yeah.
And man, I just start bawling. So I'm just tired. You know, I'm just so tired. You know, I'm so tired of this life. You know, sediento de ti. You know, and man, like I would play it over and over. Even my brother's like, "Hey man, can we play a different song?" But I left this part out. When the whole thing happened with the garage, you know, like after all that happened, I remember saying to God that I didn't want to live. To take me with him, you know. And I remember him saying to me, like in my spirit, you know, that I was never alone. And I was like, but how will I know? You know? And he says, you'll know. He's like, and I heard the birds singing, you know? And it was I don't know, 4 a.m. or whatever. Like, I could hear the birds singing. And he said he would be with me, right? So now, like, that day, my mom, she's on the table, and then I come downstairs. Now, I had a really hard time with my dad. You know, we just never got along, you know? So I walk downstairs, and the first thing I think, you know, it's like, man, Dad, God, like, I don't get along with my dad. Like, can you help me with him? So I come downstairs, and my dad's like, hey, son, how you doing? I was like, I'm okay. He's like, do you want breakfast? I was like, okay. Sit down. He's like, he's making some breakfast, some eggs and stuff. And he's like, man, how you been? It's like, okay. I was like, oh, man, it's good. Good. Sat down. He's eating. Never had a conversation with him like that.
Until that moment.
Yeah. So, I'm sitting there and I'm sitting in the car, like driving and hearing this song. And I'm hearing, and it's just like, Cansado del Camino. And I'm telling God, like, I'm tired. Like, I'm worn out.
Oh.
And I start hearing those birds singing. I'm in a car driving, mind you, like 65 miles, 70 miles an hour. And I'm hearing them, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm going crazy, man. I can't. Like, I'm not even trying to explain it anymore, I'm just like, and that was the big change,
So you experienced that, man, all these things, and how does your life look? What do you do next? I know you had all those tanks. Like, did you feel the need to get rid of that? Like, or what changes begins to happen?
I could tell you that, I took my brother to his court date and everything and got back, and my friends would come looking for me because they wanted to get tanks, and, they end up like calling me on my cell phone. They're like, where are you? And I'm like, oh man, I'm right here in the kitchen. And they're like, dude, we were just there. We didn't see you. I'm looking in the kitchen. I'm like, sitting right here in the kitchen, man. Where you at? Like, dude, we just left your store. Like, man, can you get your guy to open up? It's like, we got the money, blah, blah. I thought, dude, just give it to him. Just give it to him, man. Give him the money. He's like, dude, you don't want your cut? Nah, just give it to him, bro. It's all right, whatever,
Yeah.
And I go up to the front, and this is in the grocery store, and I tell my mom, like, hey, some people come looking for. It's like, yeah, I sent them to the back. I don't know, man. I don't know. I end up talking to the guy that was buying all the tanks. Like, hey, man, you want my side of the business? How much, man? How much? Dude, give me $2,500. For real? Yeah. It's all right, man. I take, I give you the money right now, man. I was like, cool. Then guy balled, just like, man, what are you doing, bro? Like, what, did you just like,
yeah.
Dude, I'm done. Why, bro? Like, bro, come on, man. Like, I get some females. Like, bro, like, nah, dude. Like, I'm cool, man. Like, I want nothing to do with that. Like, wow, bro. Like what happened, man? I was like, dude, I want nothing to do with that no more, man. I want nothing to do with that, man. Like, I don't even want to go over there. Just give him the tanks, and it just so seems that when I met with this guy, he gave me the money. I don't know what happened to the money. I almost feel like the devil just came and took his money. I don't know, man. I don't know. I was just like, and they would call me at times. They'd be like, bro, like, we got this deal, Brian. They're dropping off. Can we just drop off by your place? 30, 40 tanks or whatever, 25 tanks or whatever. Yeah. And bro, I'll give you a cup. No. Come on, bro. Like, just do this one time for me. No. Like, you really done with this? I'm done. Like, bro, I'll see you later, man. And then I just started staying at the store with my mom. I'd be just in the cashier, But my brother, there was a church in the corner, and, that's where he went. It's called Monte de Olivos, a Pentecostal church. Yeah. And my brother's like taking me, And so here I am in church, And he's, telling me stuff about the Bible. And I was in the seminary. I didn't understand anything he was saying. I felt like a little kid, Right. He's talking to me about the Bible and this and that. I'm like, dude, I've read the Bible before. I don't get it, I don't understand, right. I don't know what to do with it, and just, so I'm just like, God, like, begin to help me, Well, they ended up, they would go out and evangelize, and, they would start taking me, But, God just, he began like just to speak to me through his word. And I started just reading, just absorbing the word, just every day, just on my knees, just crying out to God, you know, and man, just telling him I need you, like help me. And I began to understand more, you know, and then the spiritual attacks started coming, you know, then I'd be praying, man, and something would throw something at me, you know, and I was like, I could hear snakes, man. I'd get so discouraged, and you know, we'd have church like at 7:00, and you know, I'm just sitting there in the corner. I'm just like nah, that's it. I'm done. I can't do this no more, man. And then my brother would come. He was like, man, what are you doing, man? Church has got to come. Like, bro, I can't. Like, already? You're quitting? Like, yeah. You don't understand. He's like, bro, you don't understand what I've been through. It's like, well, that's what you've been through, man. Like, you weren't here just a little while ago, man. You know? And he said, man, let me pray for you, man. All right, man. Pray for me, you know? And he's like, man, well, if you want to go to church, I'll see you there, you know? I could tell he was so disappointed, you know? You know, and he left, and, you know, I'd be like sitting there, and I'm just like, okay. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to church, you know? But, you know, at this time, my mom, she was really angry at me for going to church. You know? She was angry, you know?
Because you were going to a Christian church.
Yeah. And my mom's never been like Catholic. I didn't understand, you know? It's just like, she's like, why can't you just, you know, do our faith? Like, you know, like, why do you have to? I was like, Ma, like, I would tell her. I told her what happened to me, you know? And she's just like, just angry. Like, didn't want anything to do. You know?
Isn't that crazy, man? When religion, I put a clip out there with Julio where religion almost like a gang, like you betrayed. But like I think about, man, you preferred me being a drug addict, drug dealing, as long as I was a Catholic. But now God, I have a genuine encounter with Jesus. My life's transformed. And yeah, now I'm a Christian, but it's almost like you prefer me being a Catholic and still being in the lifestyle is way out, isn't it? When you think about it. Like,
yeah.
And I know like a lot of people go through that with family members, man, where it's almost like, I think about Gideon.
Yeah.
When he called him and how he burned the idols, his father's idols, but he did it in the middle of the night because he was scared of his family. He was scared of his dad. And then when they woke up, all the idols, and like, man, who burned all this stuff? Like, I believe God calls us to leave certain traditions, religion, and just seek him, man, like a genuine relationship, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, I began to burn. I began to burn everything that was opposite of God. You know, I everything because I had all these books that I had bought about New Age. You know, funny, I see some of those books where I work at CPS. You know, piles and piles of them in their main office.
No way.
Yeah. But man, like all that stuff, I began to burn it. I began to, you know, like a fire. You know, and yeah, my mom was like super angry. You know, but you know, I think it was a big difference between like me and my brother because like my brother, you know, he had come to Christ and then went back, come to Christ and back to the world.
Yeah.
Come in Christ, you know, and you know he would steal the food off the table before, you know, drugs and heavy into, you know, drinking and just he was just and so he would sober up and then he was like all about Jesus and, you know, talk and hey, help me and this and that. And the next thing you know, but I think it was different with me, you know, because I guess the baby of the family and, you know, my mom just saw me different, you know, and my mom could always talk to me, you know, when she was going through stuff, she would just start.
Yeah.
When she just continued to see the change. You know, and then I got baptized. My mom's like, I go to church, you know. And then her, you know, she got saved. And then she got baptized.
Wow.
And then my grandma, who was hardcore Catholic, I mean, she did go to church.
Right.
Sunday, had the saints, everything in her house, had the nuns come over, had the priests come over, because my grandfather was a doctor. So, she ended up coming to Christ, and she would be at church, and I would take them when they would come to the States, because they had their sugar, they're diabetic, and they were at the point where they were going to pass away, They couldn't see, and they would just come in. And so I would take them to the doctor. And I would have conversations with them. I'm taking them to the doctor. I'm telling them about Jesus, right? And my grandma would fight me, man. My grandfather, man, whoo, But then, it's because I had such a radical encounter with Christ. Like, I used to be a DJ, and I was promoting clubs. But now I'm at the clubs with tracts, passing out Bibles. I'm inside the club with the owners and talking to the DJ, because I still had lights, because I told you I had lighting companies, so I would rent out those, rent out lighting rigs for parties and stuff like that. And so at these big clubs, I'd get paid. So I'd be doing shows outside. This is before I got saved. The shows outside. I would have my lights rented in clubs, and then I was doing parties, and then I was DJing. Right? And selling the nitrous, right?
Right.
But now I'm saved, right? So now, like, I go to the clubs to, collect my money and talk to them, and I'm just like, hey, guys, I came to Jesus. I want you to know about Jesus. I can't be coming back anymore, I'll sell you my equipment. I don't know, like, how you want to do it, tying loose ends, right?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, man, that's great. Came to Jesus, Like, man, I read the Bible too. I'm talking to him about Jesus, and, they're like, man, just come later on tonight, and, we'll give you some money. And, but with them, you had to wait, So I came later on tonight, and the club is full, 1,000+ people, and I'm up there at the DJ booth, and I know all these people, right? And they're like, Rudy, like, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you. Like, dude, man, God changed my life, man. Like, Jesus, man, I accepted him as my savior, man. And, man, bro, he's just love and peace and joy, bro. Like, I can't even explain it, man. So, hey, man, hold on. I'm about to start DJing, And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And he's DJing, and being between songs, he's like, so, man, really? He's like, you're not drinking no more? I was like, nah, dude, I don't drink. And, man, I'm telling you, like, it's like, man, my girl left me, blah, blah. Dude, let me pray for you. I'm praying for him. He's DJing in the club, But, I pray for him, and, we're talking, he's mixing again, and I see these owners and these people, I'm like, hey, Rudy, how's it going? Like, that, dude, came Jesus, man.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like, oh, man, that's okay. All right, man. Well, I'm happy for you, And then I look outside a nightclub, like the crowd, all the lights are going and stuff. And I see this tall black lady, probably like 6'4". She was a little heavyset, but with a pink bag, like a pink backpack. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, something tells me she's hurting. I come down, go through the middle of the club, everybody start praying for her. And she turns around and she looks, she's sobbing. I didn't know that, right? I just saw her and the lights and everything. Everybody's like, like doing their stuff, and I'm like praying for her. And at this point, I walked to the stage of the club, and the club was called E2's. And I sit there, and I start crying out to God. I get on my knees, and I start praying. And man, I'm like, it's a spiritual warfare. It's like, God, I pray for him. Pray against. I felt like God was grieved. He was angry. But there was like, he loved them, And I'm praying for him, on stage. I come down from the club, and my car was parked across the street. This was actually on Michigan, Sure. And I'm sitting out there praying in my car now, you know? Because that was just what I was seeing, man. Like, almost like I was seeing demons.
Yeah.
Like I was seeing, you know, I don't sound crazy, man. But
No, yeah.
This is what I'm looking at this place, and I'm just like, I see people smiling, like, and then I see demons. I see in their faces. I see them in the shadows. I see the eyes. And so I walk out that place, and I'm you know, and then a bunch of gypsies start showing up, and they're passing out business cards, but they're looking around, you know? And I'm sitting in my car, and I'm looking at them. I was like, it's the enemy right there. You know, it's the enemy right there. They're looking, and then they stop and they see me. And then they're like staring at me, and I'm staring at them, and I'm starting to pray, you know? You know, 8:28. We just talked about that.
Romans 8:28. Second time.
Yeah.